Will you undertake to give us that answer?
Will you undertake to ask CBSA, who contracted GC strategies?
I ask the questions, you respond.
Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox. Today, we take you back to the Standing Committee for Government Operations and Estimates, or the Mighty OGO, as they like to call it. Although the meeting agenda sounds like boring bureaucratic baloney, the Conservatives concentrated their collective consciousness to meticulously and methodically measure the responses of the Minister of Public Services and Procurement Canada, or PSPC, about the ArriveCan app.
Well, I'm not matching that, so let's take a look.
Thank you, Minister. We'll start with Ms. Cusi, please, for 6 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Minister, for being here today. Minister, as you indicated in your opening remarks, on October 4th of this year, the Globe and Mail reported that there were numerous contracting discrepancies between Bottler AI, GC Strategies, Dalian & Caradics, and the CBSA, resulting in a criminal investigation. These alleged activities included collusion, fraud, identity theft, forged resumes, and fraudulent contracting. How do you, as the Minister of Procurement, account for this lack of oversight and this criminal investigation?
Okay, so Stephanie Cusi opening up. So here's the interesting thing. This meeting actually isn't supposed to be about the ArriveCan app. This meeting has on the main agenda item supplementary estimates. Now, what are supplementary estimates? It sounds very boring. But what this is supposed to be is supplementary estimates are part of the normal parliamentary process to ensure that previously planned government initiatives receive necessary funding to move forward, and therefore meeting the needs of Canadians. That's what they say in the parliamentary website. So they present this information to Parliament on the Government of Canada's spending requirements that were not sufficiently developed in time for inclusion in the main estimates, or urgent but unforeseen, such as natural disasters. Supplementary estimates directly report an Appropriation Act. So, there's initiatives that, they did a ballpark guess on what they would cost, and these initiatives are brought up to speed and updates are brought up on them at the supplementary estimates hearing so that the committee can ensure that they're holding these people to account in terms of what this extra cost and estimates might be. So, as it relates to ArriveCan, it's technically within scope because this was not a accurately budgeted item of $80,000, which ballooned to $54 million. So that's why this is in scope, and that's why you're not going to hear any Liberals, most likely, because we haven't watched this yet. You're not going to hear any Liberals barging into their question saying, well, that's not relevant. Well, actually, it absolutely is, because they're talking about spending that was not accounted for, that was not really had the full due diligence on it, never mind any due diligence, as we've seen, which is why it's such a scandal. So given that the purchasing process is in scope of this, this is what their questioning is going to primarily focus on. We're not going to get to the NDP questions or the Liberal questions because they're not interested in the ArriveCan app. They're talking about other things. So let's get on with this. And Stephanie Cusi opened the salvo on this with a pretty direct question to the minister. And as we mentioned in our last ArriveCan video a couple of weeks ago, they are now going to be working to tie this to elected officials. So this is the first step.
Thank you. And let me be clear from the start. The Bottler AI contract to which you correctly allude has nothing to do with ArriveCan. It is a contract that was undertaken for other purposes. Now, it is totally appropriate that the RCMP is investigating the important allegations of misconduct in this contract. I understand this is under the purview of CBSA, the Canadian Border Services Agency, and we have confidence that they are going to do their due diligence in digging into this important matter.
So you are trying to shirk responsibility here today with this committee, indicating that this had nothing to do with the ArriveCan investigation that we are currently undergoing at this committee, that this committee is seized with. And yet, this GC Strategies, which we have found was involved in the building of ArriveCan, which received $11 million for sending a few emails over LinkedIn to other companies, is still being used. This company that's being investigated in a criminal investigation by the RCMP is still being used across government. You, as the procurement minister, you have the authority to stop the use of this company, which is being criminally investigated across government. And yet you're refusing to do so. You're allowing other departments under the purview of procurement to use GC Strategies, a company that is under criminal investigation. How do you respond to that, Minister, that you do not eliminate the use of GC Strategies across government as you have the purview to do?
That's the magic question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And given the testimony that has happened at committee, that prompted the CBSA to say, okay, well, we're suspending all of our purchasing with them. Now, admittedly, they're probably doing that to try and save face in all this because they look like a bunch of fools. And it looks like there's a lot of corruption that went on at the CBSA based on everything that we've heard at committee. But they're still being allowed to collect money and to secure contracts from other government agencies. Why? Why, Mr. Minister?
Why
elected
indeed?
Official who works for Trudeau?
Why indeed?
Very good. So first, a clarification, and second, an explanation. The clarification is around Butler AI. As we've just mentioned, the contract to Butler AI had nothing to do with ArriveCan. I think it's important to repeat that because as members of the committee, you have the right to understand the matters and the facts. In terms of clarification, I will turn to my officials who are experts in the clear understanding of the allocation of contractual authorities, financial authorities, and actual implementation of monitoring of the contracts themselves. So I'll ask Minister.
I don't think we want to hear from the authorities. I think Canadians want to hear from you.
We're just sitting here watching this, and this is the first time we've seen it. We haven't actually pre-screened this video. We are watching it for the first time while we're recording. And I had said to Cypher, that guy there who's testifying, he's an elected official, right? He's an MP, he's a Liberal. Cypher says, yeah. And the way I picked up on that without looking at the title bar, without looking at his name, was that he said it twice, at least by my count, that Butler AI is not related to ArriveCan. Why would you say that? It hasn't been brought up.
Because from their standpoint, it was the Butler AI whistleblowers that tipped off the RCMP that some really shady stuff was going on, some criminal behavior was going on, at least on the contractor's side. There's more information to come out that we're waiting for, so I won't say anything else. But that spawned this criminal investigation. And so they're trying to be very careful and saying, well, this has nothing to do with ArriveCan. Well, here's the thing. The criminal investigation, you could argue, doesn't have anything to do with Butler. What it has to do is with the procurement process that's going on within the government. So, does it have anything to do with Butler? Yes. Is it directly and only to do with Butler? No. So, I would argue that it also has something to do with ArriveCan. It has something to do with virtually every other government contract that is provided to a third party. Because that's what's going on here. Remember, we said that this Butler and ArriveCan scandal is the window dressing. This is just the entry point to a whole world of other potential corruption. As we've shown you in our videos, especially to our members, where we unveil the fact that there's another company, Veritech, that has been paid like over $700 million since 2004, with the vast majority of that happening under Trudeau. And the GC Strategies guys came from Veritech. The 𝘠𝘬𝘗𝑥 and Dalian president came from those guys. So this is a lot bigger than just ArriveCan and Bottler AI. But the Liberals are trying to spin this and saying, oh, you know, ArriveCan, which is the most public and visible application that the public has seen in recent history. They want to celebrate that as a big success because they have to justify the $54 million. But you have to ask, why are they going to such lengths to shield that from everybody? Why? That's the question. And Stephanie's question, why are you not shutting down GC Strategies?
It's a good question.
These guys
are under criminal investigation by the RCMP, and the government is still doing business with them.
Right.
Quote unquote business.
Right. Why? And this guy's response is, well, ArriveCan has nothing to do with Bottler AI and the RCMP investigation. Okay, fine. Let's say for the sake of argument, that that's correct. But you know who does and is a common denominator in both ArriveCan and Bottler? GC Strategies, who have been shown to be flat out liars on multiple occasions in committee.
Mr. McDonald has never referred to it as a cottage. It's a chalet.
Have admitted to doctoring resumes, committing fraud on tape, and you're still choosing to allow them to do business. There's something else going on, and we want to get to the bottom of it.
That you will take responsibility for the use of this company, which is still being allowed to be used across government. This is just completely unacceptable. I'll give you some more information, Minister, and perhaps you'll have a better response for Canadians with this. GC Strategies reached out to the CBSA to create a relationship to sell Bottler AI's technology and help them fulfill their obligations under C65. So let's make the connection. GC Strategies that was used with the ArriveCan app is also being used within this contract. Instead of directly paying GC Strategies, the company they were in communication with, the CBSA instead decided to pay Dalian and 𝘠𝘬𝘗𝑥 to pay GC Strategies to pay Bottler through an existing contract. This contract was valued at $21.2 million and was Informatics professional services and was also used, Minister, for ArriveCan. Does this contracting process concern you at all? And if it does, what are you doing about it right now for Canadians? This should be very concerning for you. This has seized meeting upon meeting of Government Operations Committee. So please share with Canadians what actions you are taking right now today to ensure that we never have another RCMP investigation to this level of potential fraud with the government ever again. Thank you, Minister.
Wow.
Any bets on a complete deflective answer and I'm not doing anything?
Oh, 100%. He's a Liberal politician.
There you go.
Good. I think, again, all members of this committee expect and deserve information, clear information on what took place. And again, I want to point out that the matter under investigation by the RCMP is a matter of the contractual use of Bottler AI on matter that had nothing to do with ArriveCan. Now, this is still an important matter that has been put to the attention of CBSA, and on what we can do within this department, I'll turn to Deputy Minister 𝘱𝑒𝑧𝑒.
Again, Minister, I appreciate you doing that, but again, I think Canadians want to hear from you as the accountable minister here today. And I'm going to conclude, Chair, with this final question. You may also, Minister, be aware that we have had senior public officials in this committee lie to this committee and lie to Canadians, and that's completely unacceptable. So I want you to ask you, do you approve of your subordinates lying to this committee and lying to Canadians, Minister?
Whoa.
Oh, shots fired.
Oh, nice. And I love that Kussi didn't let him delegate that question. I love it because she's right. You're the elected official responsible. You're supposed to be the person who all of this reports into. So, no, you don't get to delegate this. You want to put on the big boy pants and you want to make the big boy extra money that you get being a minister of an entire division of the government, then you got to answer the questions. Otherwise, get out of the chair, turn in your money and turn in your title and go back to being a regular citizen.
Again, I think we all want to be honest and clear to Canadians.
They were not, so I hope you can. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm obviously, I don't want to control how this committee works. I'm there to serve and to provide appropriate information for the important work that you do. But when we hear that these are my subordinates, I'm sorry, but I'm not the minister of CBSA. I would like to be the minister of everything. My responsibility is to be minister of PSPC, and I have great officials with me who will be able and very pleased to provide you with the important information and clarity of information that you deserve in this particular committee. They are there for you.
Thanks, Minister.
Procurement reports to you, Minister. Thank you, Chair.
Well, I think that's Mr. Baines for 6 minutes, please. Go ahead.
Wow, so he just passed the buck.
Yeah, and basically said, I'm here not to answer any questions whatsoever. That's why I brought my people with me.
Disgraceful.
Liberal transparency, everybody. Remember? It's going to be the most transparent government ever. Transparent in the amount of corruption that we can see.
Transparent as mud.
Perhaps it can be provided in writing. Mr. Brock, please, 4 or 5.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, you appeared before the Senate on October the 18th, 2023 at a question period. And you were asked a number of questions by 2 senators on the ArriveCan application. 4 questions were put to you. You were evasive. You were non-responsive. So let's hope your responses to committee today are a little more on point. So the question that was put to you that you did not answer was that the RCMP is investigating the shady contracts surrounding the ArriveCan. The Trudeau government hid the fact from the Auditor General and from all Canadians. And in fact, when it was revealed...
Wait 1 moment. We have a point of order.
Just to correct the record, the RCMP are not investigating the ArriveCan
Mr.
scam.
Sousa, that's not a point of order. You can bring that up during your time. Thanks.
Wow.
Very well done.
Well done. Well done, Chair. Mr.
Well done, Mr. McCauley.
That was basically, Sousa, shut up. That's basically what that was. Shut up.
But do you see how these Liberal guys are just jumping in wherever there's any reference from criminality and the ArriveCan app?
Oh, yeah.
They are terrified. What are they protecting? Who are they protecting?
It's like they're putting a big sign saying, look here, look here.
Which one of these Liberal insiders got rich?
Maybe multiple.
Mr. Sousa, please. Go ahead, Mr. Brock.
And when it was brought to the attention of the committee that the Auditor General did not hear about the investigation from the Liberal government themselves, but rather a story from the Globe and Mail, everyone was shocked. Canadians were shocked, and the Liberals, with the assistance of the NDP, shamefully shut down the committee after 1 full round of questions. So my question to you, sir, is who hired the GC Strategies to work on the ArriveCan? Because government officials at the CBSA are pointing fingers at each other. They're blaming each other. They're not answering the questions. So I know that you're not responsible for CBSA, but you're certainly responsible for the funding that went to CBSA to pay the $11 million to a 2-person company that works out of their basement, who did no IT work whatsoever, but simply did a Google search and found IT professionals and pocketed $11 million of taxpayer money. Who hired GC Strategies?
Well done, Mr. Brock. Well done. And I like how he anticipated the evasiveness of what no doubt is the forthcoming answer, and tried to give him very little wiggle room on where to go. But let's see what this guy says.
Thank you. And for the sake of being clear and factual, let me again point to what my colleague MP Sousa said. The RCMP is not investigating ArriveCan. So
Sir,
No,
This
well,
is my time. Who hired GC Strategies?
Sorry, we've got a point of order. One moment. Go ahead.
Yeah, can we make sure that the witness has enough time, the same time that they're being asked a question,
Point of
provided
order.
time to be able to answer?
In this committee, I've always recognized the time as the member's time. And it's Mr. Brock to
Minister,
use, just as I'm sure Mr. Souza yourself will be able to use your time for that.
Minister, Canadians want a straight answer from this government. We're not getting it from senior bureaucrats. We're not getting it from any member of the CBSA. Who was responsible for hiring GC Strategies and giving them $11 million of the $54 million price tag for the ArriveCan? Who was it?
So we're there to help. We're there to provide information. If there is no time to provide information, that is fine. We'll perhaps be able
Will
to
you
provide it
undertake,
in writing.
Minister, will you undertake to give me that answer? Because CBSA will not give me that answer. Will you, as Minister of PSPC, give this committee that answer? Yes or no?
Now, Chair, I'm not totally new in committee meetings. I believe in previous experiences with previous chairs, the minister had approximately the same amount of time to answer as the question.
And you've actually exceeded the time now. So my question is yes or no.
So if
will
you want me
give
to
us...
listen to questions, that's fine. If you want me to answer questions, that might be a different matter.
I'm going to interrupt here, and will repeat what I said earlier. I've been on this committee for 8 years, and in this committee, the practice has always been it is the members' time. And gentleman's asked a question, and we always expect and request straight answers.
Wow.
So rather than choosing to answer, the guy thought he was going to filibuster and just continue talking out the clock to avoid answering a simple yes or no question.
Again, what are they hiding?
Yeah.
What are these liberals hiding?
Remember, when this first came out, this was thought to be isolated to a couple guys in an agency, far removed from the elected officials. But now you have this. The further this goes up, the more obstruction there is. How far does it go?
I'll ask the question again. Will you undertake to this committee to give us information at who within the CBSA hired this two-person firm and gave this two-person consulting firm who hired IT personnel and experts and gave them $11 million? Will you give us that answer, sir? Who hired GC Strategies?
So first, the RCMP is not investigating ArriveCan. Second, the Minister of PSPC is not responsible for funding CBSA, unlike what you said earlier. So that's the second fact which I think we all need to be clear about. And third, CBSA did choose GC Strategies, and you are
CBSA
you're totally
Sir,
right to ask them the
Minister,
question.
who at the CBSA was responsible for the decision to hire GC Strategies? Will you undertake, for the fifth time now, me asking this question, will you undertake to give us that answer?
Will you undertake to ask CBSA who contracted GC Strategies?
I ask the questions, you respond.
I'm asking the question because you don't provide me with time to answer.
Will
so
you do
maybe-
that, sir? Yes or no?
No, let me be a bit more
Okay,
positive.
you're evasive. I'll move on, sir. You don't want to answer the question. I'll move on.
Wow, man.
I know we're saying that a lot, but just we're speechless. Just wow. This guy thinks that he can ask Brock questions now.
Yeah, and maybe this is the right time to say, no, I won't say it. I won't say it. I'll probably be flagged by the government. Do a Google search and see who else this guy kind of looks like. Anyway, just the brazenness of this guy and the passive aggressiveness. Like you are summoned to committee. You're expected to provide answers.
And this guy's a politician. He should know that.
Yeah, this what Canadians are done with. These guys think that, they don't work for us.
They think they're untouchable.
And this is why, there is genuine frustration with the Conservatives because they're so sick of this. And they see these guys taking advantage of the system. They're enriching themselves. And they're basically sitting there wagging their finger at everybody saying, ha, ha, ha.
And the NDP is helping them do it. That's the kicker.
Right. Anyone who's an NDP supporter, you better be thinking about who you're supporting.
Yeah, maybe rethink your political allegiances.
Like, the Conservatives are not perfect. Far from it. But who's the only party that seems to be holding anyone to account? And who's the only party that seems to recognize that Canada is not a fun country to live in right now because it's unaffordable? And they're at least acknowledging that and trying to propose ways to fix it. So, like, I'm just disgusted with this.
GC Strategies has been suspended by the CBSA. How many other departments is GC Strategies currently working with?
Be as helpful as I can be. So if you want to ask CBSA a question,
that wasn't the question.
Perfectly fine.
How many other government
question.
departments is GC Strategies currently bidding on and doing work for and receiving taxpayer funds while they're under investigation by the RCMP? How many other departments, and please identify them?
I'm afraid that is our time. Perhaps we can get back to that another round, or perhaps we can provide that. The question has been brought up. When point of orders are brought up, we do stop the clock.
So again, this guy is just filibustering and evading and intending not to answer any questions at all as it relates to this whole thing. But he says, oh, you know, I'm here to be help. I'm here to serve. Yeah, the person you're here to serve isn't in this room, I bet.
Chair, Mr. Duclos, after 8 years, one of the biggest problems we see with this NDP Liberal government is that while everything is broken, nobody ever takes responsibility. Now, you're the Minister of Public Services and Procurement of Canada. That means your responsibilities include procurement. So I want to ask you again, who is the person responsible for the decision to use GC Strategies and procure through them the ArriveCan app?
Well, I've tried to answer before, but I was cut off. So I'll turn to Deputy Minister `𝘱𝑗 to provide the answer.
I want to hear from you, Minister. You're the minister responsible. I'll give you the time. I want you to answer the question.
No, I'll invite Deputy Minister 𝘱𝑗 because she might be more fortunate than I was earlier.
No, I would like to hear from the minister who is supposed to be responsible for procurement to tell us who is responsible for the decision to procure the ArriveCan app. I want to hear from the minister.
Well, I can provide information on what ArriveCan did.
No, that's not what the question is, Minister. The question is who is responsible for the decision. Your title, if I understand it correctly, is Minister of Public Services and Procurement of Canada.
I swear Brock is trying to burn a hole in this guy's head.
Like with his eyes,
he's just staring at him.
Brock's a pretty intimidating guy if you're on his bad side, for sure.
Yeah, like, and every single Liberal that seems to sit down is just interested in obfuscating and evading, and it's like, as you're watching this, you're probably screaming at the TV screen, and I would love to scream, but I don't want to burst your eardrums. So we're trying our best to contain ourselves.
This was a procurement of $54 million. It was procured through a two-person company that did no IT work and subcontracted the work. You're responsible, I think, to provide answers to this committee regarding procurement. So can you tell this committee who was responsible for the decision to procure through GC Strategies?
So what you just said is inaccurate, because you've just said that $54 million was granted to a particular firm. ArriveCan...
Minister, I wasn't born yesterday. Who was responsible for the decision?
So let me continue. So
who is responsible for the decision, Minister?
Associated with 14 different outcomes, the first of which,
Minister,
indeed cost $80,000.
Who was responsible for the decision?
Damn.
He's good.
I wasn't born yesterday, yeah. What that translates into citizen speak is, I know you're filibustering. Don't screw me around. Answer the frickin' question. That's what's going on here. God, this minister is just, he's probably one of the most infuriating that has sat down. This sounds crazy. I would take Mendocino over this guy.
Okay. Am I allowed to continue?
Chair, I'd actually ask you to bring the witness to order. Yeah, he has an obligation to answer a question just like any other citizen who appears before this committee.
Specific question.
Point of order, Mr. Chair, point of order.
Point of order, Mr. Kuzmierczuk.
Mr. Chair, I mean, again, just allow the witness to respond to the questions here. We're all interested in the response. These rapid fire questions.
Mr.
Kuzmierczuk.
I think we have
nice try.
I've got the floor still. Two issues. Yes, allow the minister to respond, but the member has asked a very specific question. I think we're looking for a very specific answer. He's offered you the time to answer the very specific question, and I'll turn the floor back to Mr. Genuis. Go ahead, please.
Wow.
Genuis woke up in a mood today, and it was the right mood to come to committee.
He's doing a great job. I don't know if I've ever seen him that fired up. Like, I've seen him pretty fired up, but like today feels different.
Well, again, the Conservatives, they're done. They're done with the crap that the Liberals are pulling. The Liberals have adjourned the Senate to shut down one of their bills. They've adjourned a committee meeting before it even started to prevent the Conservatives from speaking to the RCMP about SNC-Lavalin. They've adjourned a meeting with the Auditor General when the questions were getting a little too close to home.
And most of this with the help of the NDP, don't forget.
Right. So the Conservatives have absolutely had it, and they're not putting up with it anymore.
Thank you, Chair. I will repeat the question. I've said it a few times, but I don't want there to be any confusion, Minister, about what information I'm looking for. Who was responsible for the decision to use GC strategies for the procurement of the ArriveCan app? Who made that decision?
As I said earlier, it's CBSA that made those decisions.
Do you know which person was responsible for that decision?
You should ask the Minister of CBSA. We'll be very pleased to come and visit the committee.
Minister, I asked a similar question to your officials, and Ms. Durgan told the committee the following. For the initial ArriveCan contract, CBSA approached us with a procurement strategy for sole sourcing. They presented GC strategies to PSPC. So your officials told us that they received a proposal from CBSA. Could you explain to the committee who in your department made the decision to proceed and who approached your department from CBSA?
This should be very easy to find, folks. And they don't have to go to the CBSA to get that information. You know who they have to go to?
No, who?
The person in procurement that received the email saying, "Hi, PSPC, I'm from CBSA. We want to use GC strategies. We want a sole source procurement process, please." Just to remind everybody, sole source procurement means I have one vendor, I only want to offer this to one vendor, and I don't want to go through a competition, please and thank you. That's what that means. So, they should have a record at PSPC of who actually authorized that, and they definitely would have a record via email from that person in CBSA to that person in PSPC who is under the charge of this minister. That should be easy to find. So this is actually a very good question from Genuis to try and move the goalposts that the minister has moved to CBSA back around his department, which is PSPC.
So GC strategies were selected by CBSA, and now I'll turn to DM Reza to provide the mechanics of how this happened.
Who on your side made the decision? Who on their side brought it to you? This is an extremely important matter because we have senior public servants at CBSA accusing each other of lying about who is responsible. Cameron McDonald and Min Doan are both accusing each other of lying because nobody wants to take responsibility for the decision. It seems you don't want to take responsibility for this either. Could you, and we would love to hear at some point from the minister of CBSA at the time, but could you tell us who are the individuals in their department and your department who made this decision?
The work of the members of this committee is very important. You're entitled to ask the right questions to the right people. I've already answered the question as to whether we selected GC strategies. The answer is no. If you want to know more about the contractual relationships or the
Minister, I'd like to know who made the decision. Have you asked who made the decision?
My deputy minister will be pleased to answer.
Minister, have you asked who made the decision?
As I said,
have you asked who made the
was
decision?
selected by CBSA. If
have you asked the person who made the decision?
If you'd like to ask CBSA who exactly made those decisions within that department, it's a perfectly appropriate question. If you want to know the mechanics between PSPC and CBSA,
Minister, just to conclude,
we'll be very happy to answer.
I've asked you a pretty basic question about who the individuals responsible for the decision are. You haven't answered. You haven't answered about who's responsible or whether you've asked who's responsible. Your title is Minister of Public Services and Procurement, and you're telling us you're not responsible for procurement and you don't know who is. So I'm left wondering, what is it that you do?
Oh, he said it.
Amazing.
What is it that you do? Oh, I may have to pull out the Office Space one for that. Well, we'll see about that in post.
What would you say you do here?
Oh, my goodness. He pulled out that line.
But this is very curious to me because well, Cypher, you would know, if you're a supervisor and one of your guys does something wrong and they're pointing the finger at each other, you're not going to sit there going, oh, well, you should ask Joe over there. Maybe he might know who did it. It's his department, blah, blah, blah. No, you're going to be like, it was Bob.
Well, the first thing I'm going to do as their supervisor is the three of us are going to get in a room. That's the first thing that's going to happen. And then I'm going to inform them that we're not leaving this room until I hear exactly what happened.
But what I mean is you're not going to sit there and lie and cover for them unless you're involved somehow. You're not going to lie to your supervisor then to protect one of them.
No. And some things that have happened before. So I've had employees that have made decisions and then not given me the information. I've gone and told my colleagues about what's gone on or what I thought went on, and they informed me that there was actually a different version of events that actually occurred, which made me look like an idiot. So I went back and pulled these employees into a room and made it explicitly clear that that is never going to happen again, or they're going to be without a job. So I operate with integrity, and I've also been in a situation where my employees made some pretty big mistakes, and I managed to get out of them the mistakes that were made. So the next step I took is I went to the colleague in another part of the business, and I said, this is what happened. I take accountability. These guys are report to me, and I'm accountable for my team. That's what people with integrity do.
But you don't lie and protect them and try to pass the buck the way that this Liberal minister is.
No, you don't. And here's the thing. If you are, I don't care who you are, if you're a supervisor, if you're a manager, if you're a director, if you're a C-level person, or if you're a minister in the government, what will often win you the most respect and the most trust is when you come clean and you say, all right, this is what happened. I own this. It's under my watch. And here are some steps that I'm going to take in order to rectify the situation and make sure that it doesn't happen again. The buck stops with me, and I will take accountability for that. That's what good leaders do.
And the way this Liberal minister is just filibustering and trying to pass the buck on to somebody else, it makes it look suspicious, even if he's not directly involved. Like, what is he protecting? Why is he behaving in this way? If he had integrity, he would do what Cypher said. But he doesn't. Why?
Well, and here's the thing. Let's say for the sake of our argument, he has no idea and he is not involved in this at all. All the more reason for him to say, yeah, I don't know what happened here. I agree. I should know what happened here. So something went off the rails. So I will go away and figure this out, and I'm going to provide you an answer. That's what he should do if he wasn't involved in this at all. So there's two possibilities. He didn't know about this and is trying to cover his ass. He did know about this and is trying to cover his ass. Those are the only two possibilities I see here. Either way, this is a man without a shred of integrity.
As Minister of Procurement.
That is our time. Mr. Duclos, you're welcome to answer it, but we have on to Mr. Zouari. But
I think I've
It's your
answered
time,
the
yes,
question many times, and I'll be pleased to answer it again if it comes back later.
What a smart
What
ass.
an ass. Yeah.
What a smart ass.
Disgusting.
So, that minister, he just went down in flames and crashed into a dumpster and then got bowled over by a bus by the end of that, because he made himself out to look like probably one of the most corrupt and inept ministers in the entire cabinet.
Well, and that's the thing. Perception is reality. Maybe this guy has absolutely nothing to do with any of this. He just is head of the department. He's the minister for it. But the way he's answering the questions, the way he's combative, especially with Genuis, it makes it look suspicious. To Canadians who are watching this, it makes it look like this Liberal minister has something to hide.
I swear Fox really pays attention when I'm talking to my employees when I'm working from home, because that's what I tell them. Perception is reality.
It is, though.
And she's right. And here's the thing about perception and what that means. Perception is reality. Perception is really most of what matters, because if you're conveying to people that you look suspicious and that you look corrupt, it doesn't really matter if you're not, because you're making it seem like you are.
That's it. People are going to believe, Canadians are going to believe that you're corrupt and that you're hiding something.
And I've probably done more research into this than most people, and I get the impression that he's corrupt because there's no other reason for these answers. No other reason at all. He shouldn't have needed his cronies there that came with him, that he was most likely intending to pass off every single question to one of them.
Well, and he was trying, but Brock and Genuis wouldn't have it.
Yeah. No, and Kuzi too. None of them would let him do that. So, like, it's just absolutely silly. And it's not like you shouldn't be prepared for this question. This question has been asked to so many people up to this point. And the guy that he was going to defer to, Mr. Gillis, he was at one of these previous committee meetings when they pulled in the PSPC people. So again, he should have actually come prepared with his answer and prepared his minister. So, like, this rabbit hole just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. But the great thing is that, you know, you can see how committed the Conservatives are to getting to the bottom of this, because they're using meetings not dedicated to ArriveCan to try and get to the bottom of ArriveCan. So if there's anybody that has doubted the Conservatives' commitment to justice on this, that should pretty much be dissolved by this point. So I know we haven't had much in terms of ArriveCan for the last week and a half or so, but we're following it. Don't worry. And as we see these come out, we'll provide our analysis on them. So stay tuned. We'll have more tomorrow.